already lived through this thing when I was living in Venezuela. Statues came down. Chavez didn't want that history displayed. And then he changed the street names. Then came the curriculum. You guys think it can't happen to you? I've heard this so many times. But always be on guard. Never believe something can't happen to you. You need to guard your country and your society, or it will be destroyed.
That prescient warning from my next guest went viral, and it's not hard at all to see why. Marxists tore apart Venezuela in the 90s and took it from Latin America's richest and most stable democracy to the poverty-stricken dystopia it is today. Now, Venezuela isn't the only country to see this happen, and let's make sure we're not next. Venezuelan activist Elizabeth Rogliani joins me now. Elizabeth, you made quite a statement in your video.
Yes.
What is America, especially the American youth that are treating this like this is a carnival, like a social, social justice experiment in their new entertainment? What are they missing?
I don't think they're seeing past what's going to happen next, because they're thinking these are just symbols of oppression. But I had a lot of friends that told me, oh, it's just the Confederate statues. And I said, no, it's not going to be just the Confederate statues. Just wait and see. This is a slippery slope. The next thing is going to be all the symbols of the United States. Founding fathers are going to be attacked. Religious symbols are going to be attacked. And next, probably museums. I mean, anything can be attacked if you just let it happen. If you just let the first ones come down, then there's no limits to what's next.
Governor Cuomo, Elizabeth, is basically saying that, like, this is just free expression. It's a good thing. Watch.
People are making a statement about equality, about community, to be against racism, against slavery. I think those are good statements, and it depends. Can you overdo it? Of course you can. But in New York, I don't think we've overdone it, and I think it's a healthy expression of people saying, "Let's get some priorities here."
A healthy expression, Elizabeth? Is that where we're headed when all this is said and done?
No, it is not. It's a cultural revolution. It's an attempt to change the identity of the country. That's my opinion. And that's what they did to us. Of course, it was different. At that point, they already had taken the government. But at this point, they're trying to change the national identity, and they're trying to destroy the system. And if they get to the government, they'll do it. They certainly will do it.
Would you be surprised, Elizabeth, if other foreign governments were involved in stoking this discontent? Because if I could think of one, it would probably be China, because they would benefit greatly, obviously, by a destabilized United States, and certainly with Trump out of the way.
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they're involved. In fact, another of those videos that I made on TikTok, I was talking about how the Venezuelan regime was involved in the protests that are going on now, and we saw the evidence of the VLM founders being an ally to the Venezuelan regime. I saw pictures of them in 2015 where Otaola, one of the co-founders of the VLM movement, went to Venezuela and called and said that she was happy to be in a place with intelligent political discourse. That just tells me
you cannot make it up. Elizabeth, we're going to stay in touch with you and connected to you. Great analysis. Thank you for making us think about this.
Thank you.
And my next guest has traveled the world as a journalist for the last 30 years. She's witnessed much of what Elizabeth Rogliani just laid out for us. Joining me now is Lara Logan, host of Lara Logan Has No Agenda on Fox Nation. Lara, whether it's Venezuela, Russia in 1917, the Maoist Cultural Revolution, these revolutionaries always have a plan. What's their plan for the United States?
Well, if you go to their literature, Laura, they don't, there's no confusion about their plan. It's a complete rebuilding of the United States according to their political ideology, which means getting rid of the police, getting rid of property law, private ownership of property. In fact, you can't own land at all because it's alive, according to them. And if you think, a lot of people will say, well, that's so extreme, that's ridiculous. These people have been around a long time. They're not any threat. This is just a right-wing conspiracy conspiracy theory, right? Except what they're ignoring is the evidence, for example, in Minneapolis and in Austin, in cities like this, the city councils have been rezoning single-family areas and making them multi-family areas only. So you can't have single-family ownership because guess what? It's racist and discriminatory because minorities are disadvantaged. They can't afford a single-family home as much as white people can. Therefore, it has to be changed. So these policies have been creeping into government in the United States, all across this country, and they're backed by these, really what they are is they're the ultraviolet frontline combat troops of an ideology that has political backers who you don't see. And that's really the most critical thing here, because they've hijacked a very real agenda of racism and racial injustice, but they're using it to ignite a race war. They're not using it to unite the country. They're using it to divide the country, to burn it to the ground, to erase its history, and take it on the path that they want. But, you know, you have to wonder about their political backers, because they don't want to live in anarchy. So are these people just a tool? Well, that's my question.
Yeah, well, they never do. I mean, the upper echelon of the revolutionary movements always live well. They're always fat and happy. They're always protected. And a lot of people are paying out protection money right now. I mean, they're trying to cover their bases here. If this side ends up really winning, they want to hold on to their mansions, and they don't want anyone to kick them off their land. I mean, I actually hear people speaking in those terms.
Well, you're exactly right. But unfortunately, there's always a group of elites, and always those in power and those in control, who live by a different set of rules. And so this idea that they have to take down all the elites and address the injustice of the past, they're just hiding behind these issues, the same way they hide behind their masks, the same way they hide behind their name. They're not anti-fascists fighting fascists. They're just another form of fascists fighting for power. And they never live like or with the people they champion. That's a quote from Victor Davis Hanson, who was a guest earlier on your show. Yes, it's not mine. I can't pretend it's mine. But he's right. They never do.
Yeah, well, the rules never apply to them. You're absolutely right. They live by their own rules. Lara, great to see you tonight. And up ahead